Hello, it's Mark, and welcome again to another whiskey review. Thanks for tuning in, stopping by. Subscribe if you want to be notified. I guess it helps the thing. I don't know all that stuff about YouTube, but anyway. So today we're out here in the big thicket of Southeast Texas, and it's going to be summer soon, so it's going to be a lot hotter. I'll have to be inside before long. But okay, so this is Glenmorangie Tarlogan, and I'm going to go ahead and pour that and give it a roll, and then I think this is part of their Legends. I know this is part of their Legends line, and I haven't seen it in a while. So this is matured in virgin oak and ex-bourbon casks. I'm not really that familiar with this one. I don't know that I ever saw this in the airport like I did the other part of like the Duhawk and the what was the other one? The Cadball, not Cadball Estate. The Cadball, the Duhawk, and there's one other one. But anyway, on to Glenmorangie. It's a Highland single malt Scotch. It's the most popular Scotch in Scotland. They make like 10 million bottles per year, but like 6.5 million, 6 million or so stay in Scotland. They have the tallest stills in Scotland. They're about, I think, 18 feet tall, about as tall as a giraffe. They have swan neck stills, I believe. Glenmorangie means Vale of the Big Meadows, or Vale of Tranquility, depending on, kind of like the way it's interpreted from the Scots Gaelic. They're a subsidiary of Louis Vuitton. Glenmorangie was founded in 1843 by the brothers William and John Matherson. Production began in 1849, I believe. It says on here anywhere. But they were mothballed during Prohibition and then again during World War II. The site was originally a farm distillery named Morangie, and the evidence that distillation was going on there as far back as the early 18th century. They were one of the first to do cask finishes. I know Glendronach says they were, but who knows who was really first. Their wood actually comes from the U.S. in Missouri, the Ozark Mountain, Mark Twain National Forest in the Ozark Mountains in Missouri, and then it's air dried rather than kiln dried, and then they ship it off 2 years to Jack Daniel's in Heavens Hill, where it sits in bourbon for 4 years before it goes to Scotland. So, okay, this is a 43% ABV, aged in ex-bourbon, finished in virgin oak, and it has natural color. So, I'm going to go ahead and show it to you in the glass, in the bottle. So it's only 43%, so I'm not 100% sure on chill filtration, but let's see what this says. A celebration of our forefathers. This limited edition expression honors the ancient Pictish king, said to be the namesake of the woodlands safeguarding our precious water source, the Tarlogie Spring, and is part of Glenmorangie Legends, a collection of single malt whiskeys inspired by the legendary lands that have been home to the Glenmorangie distillery since 1843. Okay, so that's where the names for the legends comes in, I guess. Okay. Anything on here other than matured in virgin oak and ex-bourbon? So maybe it's matured in both. Okay. A celebration of our forefathers is limited. Same thing. Nothing there. 43% ABV. All right. The Picts. Centuries ago, the land's northeast Scotland were ruled by an ancient Pictish civilization whose stories live on this day through ornately carved standing stones, the most elaborate being the Cadball stone. Uncovered on the land once owned by Glenmorangie, many of these stones depict the landscapes and surroundings for which the Picts have a deep spiritual connection and sense of respect. The Tarlogie wood, among the most revered features of this land on which they lived, were the many forests and rivers throughout the countryside. Springs were especially venerated by the mysterious way in which the water bubbled up from the ground was to have marked hallowed soil where the Picts would have gathered to celebrate. One such spring sits on the front foot of the hills of the south to the Glenmorangie distillery on the edge of the Tarlogie Wood, said to have been named after the ancient Pictish king Tarlogan. Nestled in the small clearing surrounded by gorse and towering pines, gorse. The Tarlogie spring has served as the sole water source for Glenmorangie's precious single malt since 1843. Our founding father, William Matheson, discovered that the mineral-rich water bubbling up from the spring, having slowly filtered through the layers of sandstone and limestone underneath the Tarlogie wood, created a fragrant floral spirit, which would soon characterize Glenmorangie's celebrated house style. With the appreciation for the lands around our Pictish forefathers, Glenmorangie set out to safeguard the purity of the Tarlogie spring for generations to come, purchasing more than 800 acres of surrounding woodlands to ensure that the vast ancient underground reservoirs would remain unspoiled. Honoring the Pictish king is said to be the namesake of the Tarlogie wood. Dr. Bill Lumsden, celebrated director of whiskey creation and distilling, set out to create a whiskey inspired by ancient woodland that has safeguarded our precious water source since 1843, evoking the botanical aromas of early summer morning walk through the woods. Dr. Bill chose a parcel of spirit having matured in ex-bourbon casks, creating the backbone of Glenmorangie's classic light citrus, floral, sweet house style. To complement this, he married a parcel of single malt aged in virgin oak. So there we go. Okay. Crafted from the finest slow-growth American white oak and similar to those used on the critically acclaimed Glenmorangie Atlanta to reflect the purity and tranquility of the woodlands. I've never had the Atlanta. To reflect the purity and tranquility of the woodlands. Elegantly inspired by the classic floral house style, the new oak spirit distilled deeply sweet, earthy flavors and gentle sweet spiciness with lingering coconut notes reminiscent of flowers and spring sunshine. The resulting single malt Glenmorangie Tarlogan is a limited edition whiskey showcasing sweet, earthy aromas of creamy butterscotch, vanilla, and coconut with a silky texture layered into a symphony of sweet dessert-like notes. Okay, so it does say Glenmorangie Legends is a unique collection of single malt whiskeys exclusive to travel retail. Like I said, I don't remember seeing this one. I remember the other three. I never saw this one in an airport. So, okay. Not the citrus note I'm used to with Glenmorangie. This is like cream. Creamy, sweet, vanilla. What does it say? Yeah, definitely supposed to, it says vanilla. Toffee. Vanilla, a lot of vanilla. This is definitely more creamy than, I mean, even some of the other things that's based off the base spirit for Glenmorangie, which is basically the 10-year aged in ex-bourbon casks. You get that orangey, citrusy note, even if it's the Quinta Bourbon or the La Santa or whatever. This, I don't get that citrus note. I'm getting like a breaded croissant. A buttered croissant. Creamy, like a buttered croissant filled with like cream. I do get some oak in the back, some oak and maybe, yeah, oak, sweet, vanilla. Okay, that's what I'm getting. Wow. Custard. Getting that spice now, getting that cinnamon, vanilla all day. Custard, sweet, sweet, sweet. This is delicious. Malty. Again, that, like, I don't want to say it's buttery like the nose was, but that malt breadiness is there. Honey. I am getting the citrus now. Wow. Delicious. It's like a custard bomb. More vanilla comes through now. More oak. Getting, like, now I'm getting some of that citrus, that orange peel. Ginger. Delicious. Okay. Oaky, custard, vanilla, cinnamon. There's definitely a bready note to it. Sweet, honey. Finishes with, like, vanilla and spice. Ginger on the finish. Wow, that's awesome. That's like maybe the best Glenmorangie I've had. Maybe. So, I'm going to go with an 8. Thanks for stopping by. Subscribe, and we'll see you next time.